Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. So today I want to talk about our levels of consciousness. Basically, there's 3 levels of our consciousness that we talk about. It's easy to think about them in kind of progressive levels, but they actually kind of all work together. They're more connected. Everything comes from consciousness. Everything is imbued at some level with consciousness. So we don't say that anything is unconscious. We don't really use that term in yoga. But what we do talk about is subconscious. There are things that are asleep. There's this ancient saying that God sleeps in the rocks, dreams in the plants, starts to wake up in the animals, and is fully awake in humankind. And so it's that subconscious level is that lowest level. And that's typically when we're sleeping, we're in our subconscious state. We've shut down our conscious mind. We're not aware of our body. Usually most of our dreams that come up for most of us are basically just whatever we've experienced during the days, whatever we're thinking about, whatever we're feeling, whatever we're anticipating with joy or dread. Those will show up in kind of odd circumstances or archetypal imagery, but it's not really necessarily telling us anything new. It's basically just reinforcing and restating what is already there. Sometimes we're not as aware of it, so it can be helpful to look at those. But yeah, it's frequently in subconscious dreaming. It's not really giving us new information, typically. So then we wake up, we get out of bed, we're in our conscious mind, and this is where we're making decisions and we're planning our day and we're kind of trying to get everything in order and make sure everything goes right and manage things, take care of things and worry about things, feel relieved at things, go through all these different emotions. That's the conscious mind. And then it gets better. The superconscious mind, the place where I hear people talk about the superconscious state, the superconscious mind most often in our culture, is in sports. Sometimes you hear about athletes talk about being in the zone. And usually what they talk about, they're playing their sport, whatever it is, football or basketball or archery or anything. They've been doing it for years and years and years, and all of a sudden one day it clicks, and suddenly they say it's like the game is just happening through them. It's completely effortless, and it's extremely joyful. There's no tension at all. There's no sense of worry. They just know in their deepest bones, down to every cell of their body, that just they know exactly how the game is going to go and that they're just a part of it, and every single thing that's happening is just wonderful and perfect. And anybody who experiences that, they know it and they love it and they light up when they talk about it, and they spend so much time and energy trying to recapture that experience. That is a taste of what superconsciousness is. And we can feel it in little bits and pieces all the time as we start to wake up, as we raise our vibration. Many of us have experienced moments where all of a sudden there's this sense of ease, this great sense that everything's okay, that everything's in this perfect order, everything's right, everything's beautiful. There's just this upwelling sense of joy within us that just happens for no reason at all. And it's an amazing, beautiful experience. And again, it's just a little part of superconsciousness. So I talked about these things, we kind of think of them as a progression, but they're actually kind of interrelated. There's this great book, Zen in the Art of Archery. It's about this German professor who goes and studies or teaches, I think, in Japan, or does a sabbatical in Japan for 2 or 3 years, I think. And during that time, he studies Kyudo, the art of Japanese archery, which is one of the Zen arts, and his wife studies ikebana, flower arranging. And it's a really beautiful to hear him describe just the heartbreaking practice of going through the training and eventually being able to be able to shoot an arrow in the superconscious state at will. And that's what the Zen practices are. It's about getting into a superconscious flow, into the zone with whatever it is that you're doing, and being able to reproduce that state every time with increasing refinement. So these layers are interrelated, and it's interesting because in between subconscious and conscious is actually, you can kind of break into superconsciousness. Frequently people will have superconscious realizations. You'll have a great profound aha, eureka kind of moment as you're waking up or as you're falling asleep. Also, these are the times when people frequently will have superconscious dreams. Those are the dreams that are extremely vivid and powerful. There's much more awareness in them than in subconscious dreams are usually kind of murky and dim, and you're like you can see one or two things, but you're not really aware of yourself as a body or something like that. But superconscious dreams are just vivid and full of color. Everything is like crystal clear and powerful and meaningful. And these are the kinds of dreams when people have very strong premonitions about things that will happen in the future, or they receive very clear guidance from another being. So also, it's interesting, they say that superconsciousness happens at the dividing line between any two different things. And they say you can actually, if you meditate on the beach or at the ocean, you can look at the horizon line because it's so clear and distinct. If you meditate on the horizon line and penetrate with your consciousness deeper and deeper, you can actually break into a superconscious state. I've tried it a number of times. I've never broken into a superconscious state, but I definitely have very interesting meditations when I do that. It's a very enjoyable and interesting practice, and I can see how it really takes a lot of concentration to like keep bringing yourself deeper and more focused on that horizon line. So try that out next time you're at the beach. In Zen and the Art of Archery, he describes at the end this process of going through these motions of drawing the bow and shooting the arrow over and over so many thousands of times. He says that you become completely numb to it. Your mind goes through all the things it can possibly think of, and then finally there comes a moment when it just gives up. It's just done. It doesn't have anything left, and your mind just goes empty and blank. And he said at that point, one of two things can happen. You can either just go increasingly into that blankness and into subconscious. He doesn't use that term, but that's how I understand it. You can sink into subconsciousness and just, okay, I'm just shooting a bow, whatever, I'm not thinking at all. Or, he said, with a particular burst of energy, you can go into this other state where all of a sudden there's a bigger flow happening through you. You know, Zen draws the arrow. Zen is the arrow and releases the string. Zen is the target which the arrow hits. It's this superconscious flow. He's entering into the superconscious state. And again, notice he talks about it takes a particular burst of energy. And so it's that same thing. Again, like there's a lot of similarities between superconsciousness and subconsciousness, except superconsciousness has more energy in it. It's at a higher vibrational level. You notice like people who accomplish great things in life, who are great innovators, they always have lots of mental energy. Great artists always have lots of energy moving through them. They're always creating whatever their art is. They're always doing it. Whether they're visual artists and they're always drawing, or they're performing artists and they're always kind of refining their use and their awareness of their body or their voice or their facial expressions or whatever it is. Just different things like that. People, if you want to be successful in anything, just bring more energy to it. And that energy will draw more magnetism, which is another great topic that I need to add to my ever-growing list of topics to cover. Anyway, so that's a quick overview of 3 levels of consciousness that we work with: the subconscious, conscious, and superconscious. Another way that you can kind of be aware in your day-to-day life, have an understanding of what level of consciousness am I, and how do I reach toward superconsciousness? How do I aspire to or affirm more joyful, expansive sense of ease? And how do I feel that there's a bigger flow happening through me? These are great concepts to play with and to meditate on. Till next time, may you experience the superconscious zone every day of your life.